very unique blend. And it's a low alcohol, 4.5, perfect for summer, perfect for chilling down, enjoying without having the compensation of the hot heat from the alcohol. So really, really nice wine. Very good. Well,
right. I like, you mentioned this is a real good food wine too. I could see this with a beautiful salmon that has some char on it from the barbecue. And
right.
So definitely hanging out with friends and family outside.
Yeah.
Around the patio.
Definitely. And it's summertime. I mean, that's why I always try to tell people, you're communicating to people. People say it's summertime. Typically people drink whites, but rosés, I mean, it's real refreshing. I drink rosés all the way up until Thanksgiving. It goes really good with turkey. But during the summertime, it always kind of is like a summer fling, that crush I had on a girl in high school. I mean, it's just like I always come back to it. It's a new experience. But there's so much out there to experience. So I really enjoy the rosés. Summer's a great time for me.
I won't tell your wife that. It reminds me.
No, I hope she's not watching this. Maybe I'm gonna have technical difficulties.
Yeah. No, this is one of those things though that I'm like you.
Yeah.
I mean, this time of year, as we start warming up around the country, rosé is just the perfect wine for almost anywhere you go.
Right.
And it just really provides a fun way to try and experience something different. And I think because people are starting to see this shift in what consumers are demanding or wanting in wine, they're more open to experimenting.
Absolutely.
And rosé is a perfect experimenting and an experimenting bridge into either your bright white summer wines. You can drink these all summer long, but if you want to go into whites, if you want to stick with your reds in the wintertime, I'm a seasonal drinker.
Right.
I will be the first to admit it. I love my big reds in the wintertime. I like my real light, refreshing whites in the summer, and I love rosés all year long, but this is kind of my bridge, my seasonal bridge, if you will.
I think right now is a great time. Grab yourself one of these bottles of Lodi rosés, take it to a friend's house, watch how surprised they'll be that you brought over a rosé. But most people just don't get it. A lot of people are onto it. It's probably the fastest growing. People in Europe understand it. But so many times people are so pleasantly surprised when you bring over a bottle of rosé, how refreshing and how they'll catch on, and then they'll be rosé drinkers, especially these dry, crisp lifestyles. They're not traditional rosés for America.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit it right on the head. People like them and they want them, but they're not used to them yet.
Right.
And I think it's because we've kind of been in this culture of you need to have whites and you need to have reds, and that blush that was out there for a while really kind of put people off to a certain extent. It almost felt as though that was your gateway wine into wines.
Right.
But really, there are so many more sophisticated rosés.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hopefully you enjoy the Heritage Oak Rosé as much as we do. Again, this is another real small lot production. There were only 80 cases of this produced. Again, Tom Hoffman is very hands-on winemaker. Suggested retail price on this is about $18, and you can get it from Heritage Oak directly. One of the other great things that Heritage Oak does is they experiment with a lot of small lots and different varietals. They also have a Zinfandel Rosé, which is, as most of the world hopefully knows by now, Lodi is known for Zinfandel. And that's our flagship, and people think of this big, juicy, fruit-forward rosé, red wine, but it makes a beautiful rosé also.
It's a great for rosé. Exactly.
So, they're doing some fun things out at Heritage Oak, and they've got a beautiful piece of property where folks who want to come and visit can actually take the opportunity to walk through the vineyards and walk along the Macomb River and really get a fully immersed experience in what the vineyard experience is here in Lodi.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, so again, hopefully this is something that you find different and unique. This is the Heritage Oak Rosé, 75% Grenache, 25% comprised of both Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc. And I get that Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah, it does. It definitely comes through. Gives you a little herbaceous undertones in the nose. It's very nice. Yeah.
I agree. I think it's a beautiful wine, and hopefully everybody out there who's tasting along with us enjoys it as well.
Very nice.
All right. So I'm going to let Chad speak to the next wine because he had some deep and hands-on experience with the Syrah winery.
Yeah, that's a wine I made, so I can tell you the ins and outs on that. Syrah is a beautiful estate on the property from the Dodge family, and it's a beautiful estate with an older home. The Dodge family's long history in California, dating back to the late 1800s. What's cool about the property is Mike Scott planted Barbera and he planted Sangiovese. Last year, the 2011 vintage, we did 100% Sangiovese Rosé, and that won Best of Class for Rosé category in the San Francisco Chronicle competition. So a very great reward. On this vintage, the 20 kind of made it like a white wine. We did a very light crushing to stemming. We put the wine into a tank for 12 hours, and then we pressed the juice away from those grapes. We actually harvested it at lower bricks, so there's a higher acid content in the wine than you would normally find in a red wine. We then take the wine and barrel ferment the wine. So you're going to get a little more complexity, there's going to be a little more toasty notes, a little more bread, almond, so there's going to be a richer mouthfeel. That's what barrel fermentation usually lends to. And there's a little touch of natural acidity, or natural sweetness in it. It's about 0.4% residual sugar, so it's not completely dry, but I think that you're left with kind of a nice sensation of just that fruity, nectarine, raspberry sweetness that you would find in the fruit. It's a great wine. It's a great summer wine. Very popular right now on the tasting room. People picnicking.
Sure.
Probably one of the more popular wines that when the temperature warms up, people gravitate towards.
I can absolutely see that. And that barrel aging on a rosé is not common, is it?
Not typically. I mean, you'll find it's lees contact. That's what we're trying to find or trying to accomplish there. So leaving the wine on the yeast lees, as the lees break down, they kind of contribute some aromas and some complexities. Certain wineries in France have done this technique, but it's another departure on the styles that you can make with the rosé. This lends it to be a little more creamy, a little more rich. You'll find that in Chardonnays, but it's just a technique that we employ to be different, and to be stylistically unique. So that's what you're going to see. And I don't know. I know that Nesta had a small percentage of barrel fermentation, and they leave theirs on lees. Whereas I think some of these might be more stainless steel, and they may have less lees contact time on them.
Sure.
So
I think it adds a little bit. Even though it's a lighter in color and it's a light-bodied wine, I think it has more structure.
Right.
That barrel aging, that creaminess that you're getting, the structure in the mouthfeel is really, really there. And I think it shows another application of rosé that is different and a departure from what people may be expecting.
Definitely. I mean, I think you sit on your patio, you chill this down. It's like a nectarine with a little bit of honey. I always think about the honey notes, the way it just honeys everything. So there's a little different style for the rosé wine.
Sure. Now, Chad, how long have you been making wine? You had mentioned it before.
Yeah, I got in the wine business in 1996, and I actually worked at Gallo. I've had a lot of experience making white Zinfandels, like I said, the sweet Grenache, and the blush wines. So it's been a little over 17 years that I've been making wine. I really focused on Lodi in 2001. Came up here and started making wines on my own, and then just branched out and started consulting for other people.
Sure.
So in Lodi, it's been 12 years now.
Great.
I've been focusing on Lodi fruit.
Great. And what are you seeing? I mean, what's the draw to Lodi fruit?
Oh, there's something for everyone. I mean, Lodi has. I mean, it's so great because there's so many different grapes that are grown here. All the grapes do well. You can make really outstanding reds. I make some exceptional whites. You mentioned the Iberian. We make Albarino. Everything's wide open. This area is, people are just starting to discover the opportunity. I mean, some people have been doing it for a long time, but there are so many different wine styles to be made, and we're just now starting to kind of fulfill those opportunities that the grapes present to itself. So everything, there's so many varieties, so many different wine styles. It's really wide open, so it's exciting to be a part of that.
Sure. Now, help me understand, because I'm not a winemaker.
Right.
But I understand. I'm an avid consumer.
Right.
But the winemaking side of things, each one of the wines we have tonight are made from different grapes.
Right.
And our friends down in Stockton with Pull That Cork have mentioned that they're all very similar in color.
Right.
And so how does that happen? What is the process? I mean,
Well, a lot of times rosés are made like you would a white wine. The juice of red grapes are typically clear. So what you typically end up having with a very slow or quick contact time with the skin is you have just a small amount of that pigment that's in the skins getting into the wine. In the red wine making process, we do pump overs, we ferment at higher temperatures, we do a lot of things to extract that color out. Usually in the rosé process, you're trying to get that juice away from those skins as gently as possible. And then the amount of skin contact time or time that you have on those skins is going to dictate the color that you have. pH is a wonderful thing. I don't want to get geeky on you, but I'm a winemaker, so I'm going to get geeky.
That's all right.
But yeah, pH is very important. You'll notice at a very, very low pH, things get brighter, they get redder, they might get pinker. At a higher pH, things tend to get bluer. You can sit there with acids and all that. So that's sometimes you'll see with rosés for you bloggers out there, or as a winemaker, it's a technique. I can look at a wine, I can almost judge the pH based off of the hue, the color hue in the wine. So typically rosés are lower pHs, maybe 3.4, 3.5, 3.6. The higher they get, the more rusty brown, blue, orangey, and then the lower, the more pink, the more salmon. And it's like white Zinfandel might be a 3.1 pH, very, very bright, kind of a hot pink kind of
colors.
Right.
With rosés, but really there's a broad range in the rosé color palette. And it can go all the way up to almost a dark bluish purple.
That's right. Yeah. Sometimes the Seigneur technique, the winemaker will harvest his red grapes and they're higher bricks, and he wants to concentrate that in red wine. So, and that's really how rosés came about. The story of Trinchero, Sutter Home. That was we're taking Foothill, Amador County Zinfandel grapes and bleeding them off to concentrate the red Zinfandel. In the process, they had to do something with that bleed off. So if you have real high alcohol, typically higher pH juice, you'll end up with a higher alcohol, blue or darker. And that is a technique that would yield a different kind of rosé.
Well, I'm really happy that the consumers are looking towards rosé wines now, and
yeah.
they're accepted more than they ever have been. I think there was this misnomer: if you were drinking pink wine, you weren't a sophisticated wine drinker, and I would argue absolutely to the opposite now.
Absolutely.
But rosé is good for not only the sophisticated wine consumer, but also for somebody who's first coming in, because it does offer that.
Cameron, each one of these producers I know is taking this rosé very serious. I mean, they are going out to make top-notch, outstanding rosés, and that's why they're getting their fruit from Lodi. And these are products that they're making for serious wine drinkers, and they take it serious.
Well, what I absolutely love about the first three so far, and we'll get to the next in a moment, is the very different varietals.
Right.
And it really speaks to, again, what we can do here in Lodi. I mean, you have Cinco, that's 128 years old. You have Garnacha that's been blended with Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc. And then you have, you go over to Italy.
Right.
You have Barbera and Sangiovese. So it's, in a way, I kind of sit there and I joke around with people when I talk about Lodi, and I say, you have a world of wine here in one region.
Absolutely.
Those varietals that are so often associated with other parts of the world are available here and grow well and make beautiful wine.
Absolutely. That's right. That's right.
So, on this one again, Syrah Winery, the Belle Rosa Rosé. It's 50% Sangiovese and 50% Barbera. This is the 2012 vintage. And again, the suggested retail price on our wines here in Lodi are meant for everybody. They're meant to be shared with family and friends. This one retails at $16 and is available through the winery and through the tasting room. So I would definitely say that if you enjoyed this one, get online to SyrahWinery.com and check it out. So why don't we move on to our last rosé? And I know we're moving quickly, so please, if there's questions and things, we do have a little bit of a Twitter feed right in front of us. So I'm sorry I keep checking down below. Feel free to ask us some questions. We'd be happy to answer them as we go along. We're looking at stuff. So the next one is the 2012 McKay Cellars Rosé. This again goes back to France with a little bit of Grenache and Carignan. And is a beautiful wine. I think you're going to find some different characteristics here that maybe have a little bit of citrus notes, maybe some ruby red grapefruit and things to them. This is another take and a very different wine from the first three. It's, I think you described it when we were talking earlier today, as a really focused, really solid wine.
Right. Mike McKay is the proprietor of this. He's the winemaker. A couple of years back, he had this rosé that we were going through and tasting his reds, and he said, "Hey, I want to show you something." And he pulled me back where he was doing his wines, and he had these couple stainless steel barrels, and I don't know, it was like super cold area of the winery, and he was just so proud of what he had captured. And there was the Grenache that he was working with. He also gets the Carignan, which is an older vine, Carignan, which is a 1909. I mean, there are absolutely amazing Carignan grown in Lodi. It was a packing grape back in Prohibition. They would ship it back east. Carignan, Cinco, these are great grapes for rosé. That Carignan, I think you get some of that. I get a real plum kind of a raspberry fruit, but there's this real plum pie kind of a flavor. But again, like you said, very focused, very clean, very tight in the finish. That's what I love about the rosés. I like the fleshiness of this, and that's old wine. And then on the finish, it's just a really nice, tight, clean, refreshing type of finish, which is exactly what I'm looking for in a rosé wine.
I agree with you. And you know, it's funny because out of each one of these, I have this depth and this complexity. Mm-hmm. And so when I think about the food that I want to pair this with, it goes everywhere from, you know, a whole range of things. And I know a lot of folks out there are going to laugh at me because they remember from Stuart giving me grief in our first Lodi Live wine tasting that I don't eat red meat, but I do remember eating red meat, and I could see rosés going with burgers. But I could also see rosés going really well with everything from, you know, like we've talked about before, niçoise salad, something real light and fresh, real kind of refreshing summertime, like all the way through burgers and thicker, heavier sauces. I think rosés of all of these kinds can definitely stand up to the bigger, heavier meals.
Absolutely. I think you take a bottle of this rosé, get a Lodi rosé, get a plate full of fresh melon, watermelon, honeydew, cantaloupe, get some prosciutto, get some nuts, you know, sit out on the back patio, have some fun with friends. Don't think about the wine. Just enjoy yourself. It's a great wine to have a couple of different bottles of and just to sit back and enjoy and not overcomplicate things too much. And it goes really well with people trying to have a little healthier lifestyle, that fresher fruit, fresher foods. You know, like you said, even the barbecue, I mean, you know, have some grilled chicken over your salad. Mm-hmm. The rosés are going to pair very well with that. And you're not going to feel heavy. You're not, you know, red wines typically when it's warmer outside, the alcohol gets to you. These are going to be clean. These are very refreshing. What a great idea to grab some of that and have it at the barbecue. That's exactly what they're made for.
I agree. The McKay Rosé is a 12.4% alcohol. Again, for the summertime, it's not going to weigh you down. It's not going to be too heavy, but actually it's going to be something that has that light and that refreshing character to it. It's something that is real approachable, which is a characteristic of a lot of Lodi wines. I mean, you know, we can do things from light and approachable to the real big jammy, fruity wines here in our region, and that breadth and that depth really provides people a lot of opportunity to begin to experience Lodi in a very different way.
No, I think that's, as a winemaker and I think as consumers, there's a lot of discovery going on with Lodi right now, Cameron. I mean, winemakers are discovering the potential of making serious wines out of Lodi using the Lodi grapes. And consumers are discovering how great the wines are and just really how value and approachable the wines are. And I love it. I mean, it's for being a winemaker, it's kind of having all these tools and this, you know, I'm on a little treasure hunt here, and every time I turn around, I'm discovering you can do things that I just, you know, people said you couldn't, but we are doing it, so that's exciting.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
And you know, as a region, as we go out and we share our wines with people all over the country, we're finding that they're extremely well received. The price points are extremely approachable. The McKay is, like some of the others, is $18 a bottle.
Right.
But it's one of those that these are wines that that have structure and body and character and are distinctly Lodi in a lot of ways. But our wines, they're definitely wines that you can share and be proud of with your family and friends. And they're wines for every day.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily wines that should be overlooked. And this is a region that shouldn't be overlooked because for so long we've been doing honing in our craft in the vineyard,
right.
And now it's being done in the cellars. Right. Is really that expression and that outward sort of showcase of what we can do here as a region. We've got 80 wineries now.
It's amazing. I mean, just in the past 20 years, the explosion. I mean, you've got serious wine producers, and that's all 4 of these wines. Like I've said, we all take this trade very serious. These are small lot production. They're all done with the idea of making the very best wines that these people can, and they choose to do it here in Lodi. And doing so in Lodi, you've got very affordable, great, well-made wines, and people. It's there for you to discover. It really is an experience, and it won't break the bank to do so. So it's definitely worth it.
Absolutely. And while all of these wines this evening are winery direct, either through their websites or through their tasting rooms, you're starting to see them kind of creep out into some areas, into some shops and things. Mike McKay and McKay Cellars you're starting to see crop up in stores throughout the West Coast and in other parts of the country. These others are more winery direct. Onesta does not have a tasting room, but her wines can be found online. Heritage Oak, Tom and Carmela are through the tasting room, but are starting to get out a little bit more. I was just in New Orleans with Tom and Carmela and 8 of our other wineries, and it's amazing to watch and see how well Lodi wines were received in the South. People just absolutely love them.
Right.
And I think it speaks to the depth and the breadth of the wines and the availability and the flavor profiles that we're making.
Yeah, I think once you're introduced to these wines, I think once you actually experience them, you realize you're onto something. And I think it's the biggest thing is getting them out there, getting people to take the time to look at them. And again, I go back to discovery. That is what wine is all about. It is sharing it with friends. It is learning new things. I'm glad you guys featured this because this is an opportunity for people to rediscover rosés and learn that there are great rosés wines and they are coming out of Lodi. And as a winemaker, I love making them. I mean, it's fun. It's absolutely exciting. It's a great wine to be able to produce in the portfolio. And I personally drink a lot of rosé, so a little hint, a little cat out of the bag there, but I'm a rosé drinker also. So yeah. Definitely.
Well, and as a winemaker, you get to taste a lot of things. So
oh, definitely.
Good tip to have.
Yeah.
And the Syrah, again, too. I don't want to miss that one. Available through the tasting room and the website.
Yep.
And it's a beautiful wine, and I think you should be congratulated on
Thanks, John.
a great wine.
Thanks, John.
So I know that we had allocated to you all that we would wrap up by around 6 o'clock, and unfortunately we had some serious technical difficulties there in the beginning, and I want to wholeheartedly apologize for those. We've all become such creatures of technology, but sometimes technology doesn't always work with us. And so thank you for bearing with us, for everyone who stayed on. Hopefully you enjoyed these wines, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to connect again in the future and share some more fantastic Lodi wines with you. So please continue to look up each one of these wineries and contact us here at the Lodi Wine Grape Commission if you have questions about any of our vineyards or wines. You have our contact information, but our website is a great resource for things. Our website is www.lodiwine.com, and we would be happy to answer any of your questions anytime. So, again, thank you for joining us, and thank you, Chad, for being here tonight.
Cheers. Cheers. Thank you.
And cheers to you all. Thanks for joining us.